In the world of unsolved mysteries, there's one name that sends a chilling shiver down the spine: the Zodiac Killer. A figure shrouded in darkness, an enigma wrapped in riddles, the Zodiac Killer is a name that echoes down the hallways of crime history, leaving behind an eerie chill. Emerging from the shadows of the late 60s and early 70s, this faceless terror carved a haunting narrative of fear and confusion, his cryptic letters taunting the police and the public alike. Each letter, a labyrinth of symbols and ciphers, only deepened the mystery, leaving investigators perplexed and the world in a state of chilling suspense. For decades, the Zodiac Killer has remained an unsolved enigma, a chilling testament to the dark corners of the human mind. His crimes, a chilling symphony of terror that still resonates across the years. Join us as we delve into the eerie depths of this unresolved mystery. Our story begins in the late 1960s, in the city of San Francisco, a place that would soon become a hunting ground for an unknown predator. The first known crimes attributed to the mysterious figure we now know as the Zodiac Killer occurred in December of 1968. On a quiet, chilly night, two high school students, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, sat in a parked car on a lover's lane in the quaint town of Benicia, just outside of San Francisco. Their innocent night out ended in a horrifying tragedy, with both teenagers brutally shot and left for dead. Just 6 months later, in the summer of 1969, the Zodiac struck again. This time, his victims were Darlene Ferrin and Mike Mageau, another young couple parked at a secluded spot in Vallejo, just a few miles from the site of the first murders. While Mageau miraculously survived the attack, Ferrin was not so fortunate. These early crimes were characterized by a chilling signature. The victims were often young couples, attacked without warning in isolated areas. The killer's method was ruthless, swift, and seemingly unprovoked, leaving the victims with little chance of survival or escape. The murders were shocking enough, but what truly set the Zodiac Killer apart was his chilling need for recognition. Following the attacks on Ferrin and Mageau, the police received a phone call from a man claiming responsibility for both this and the previous attack on Faraday and Jensen. This was the first time the world heard from the killer, but it would be far from the last. These chilling crimes marked the start of a reign of terror that would haunt the city for years to come. This was just the beginning, a horrifying introduction to a saga of fear and mystery. The Zodiac Killer had arrived, and his reign of terror was only just starting to unfold. His was a name that would soon become synonymous with unsolved crime and unending terror, a name that continues to baffle and intrigue us to this very day. As if the brutal crimes weren't enough, the killer soon decided to taunt the authorities with cryptic letters. It was in the late 60s when the first of these chilling missives arrived at the offices of 3 San Francisco newspapers. The letters were just the beginning of a macabre game that the killer, who identified himself as Zodiac, seemed to revel in. Each of these letters was a masterclass in psychological terror, filled with taunts, threats, and chilling details about the crimes. Zodiac was not just satisfied with the terror he had already inflicted, he wanted to prolong it, to make his presence felt even when he wasn't physically there. He had turned his killing spree into a twisted form of public spectacle, and the letters were his means of communication with the outside world. Within the Zodiac letters there were also cryptograms, coded messages that he claimed held the key to his identity. These cryptograms added a whole new layer of mystery to the case. They were puzzles, intricate and complex, daring anyone who dared to solve them. The first cryptogram, a complex arrangement of symbols and letters, was partially deciphered by a schoolteacher and his wife. But the information gleaned from it led nowhere, and the identity of the Zodiac remained as elusive as ever. As more letters arrived, the public fascination with the Zodiac grew. The killer was no longer just a murderer. He was a specter haunting the collective consciousness of the nation. He was a riddle, a mystery wrapped in an enigma, a phantom who seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. These letters not only increased the killer's notoriety, but also deepened the enigma surrounding his identity. Each new letter, each new cryptogram, was a tantalizing clue, a piece of the puzzle that was the Zodiac. But as the years have passed, the puzzle remains unsolved, and the identity of the Zodiac Killer, the author of these chilling letters, remains unknown. And so, the hunt for the Zodiac continues, a haunting reminder of a terror that once gripped a nation. With a city in fear and a killer on the loose, the authorities began their desperate hunt for the Zodiac. The investigation into the Zodiac killer was a complex web of dead ends, false leads, and frustrating mysteries. The authorities found themselves in a race against time, chasing a phantom who seemed to revel in their struggle. The cryptic letters sent by the Zodiac, laced with taunts and threats, only added to the urgency and the challenge. The first substantial lead came from the Zodiac's letters themselves. The ciphers, as complicated as they were, gave investigators a glimmer of hope. Teams of cryptographers, law enforcement officers, and even amateur code breakers threw themselves into decrypting these chilling messages. But the Zodiac was a cunning adversary, and his codes proved to be as enigmatic as the man himself. Investigators spent countless hours poring over the crime scenes, searching for any clue that might give them an edge. Forensic science was still in its relative infancy in the late 60s and early 70s, but it played an integral role in the investigation. Despite the challenges, the forensic team managed to piece together a partial profile of the killer. However, the lack of substantial physical evidence at the crime scenes was a significant obstacle that hindered their progress. As the investigation deepened, numerous suspects came under scrutiny. Some were questioned and released, while others remained under surveillance for extended periods. A few even boasted of being the Zodiac, either seeking infamy or perhaps hoping to divert attention from the real killer. Yet, despite the exhaustive efforts, none of these leads ever resulted in a conclusive identification of the Zodiac. The investigators were stymied time and again by the ingenuity of the killer and the inherent complexities of the case. The Zodiac seemed always to be one step ahead, leaving the authorities chasing shadows in a grim and deadly game of cat and mouse. Despite their best efforts, the identity of the killer remained as elusive as the Zodiac constellation itself. Decades later, the Zodiac killer remains one of the most enigmatic figures in the annals of true crime. The Zodiac case, a chilling mystery that continues to haunt the annals of American criminal history, remains a conundrum of unsolved ciphers and uncaught killers. This faceless specter of death, who claimed to have taken the lives of at least 37 individuals, though only 5 have been confirmed by authorities, continues to elude the grasp of justice. The key points of this case are as baffling as they are terrifying. The killer's cryptic letters sent to local newspapers, his unorthodox methods of murder, his taunts to law enforcement, and the chillingly cold and calculated nature of his crimes all combined to create a chilling mosaic of mystery and terror. Theories abound as to the identity of the Zodiac killer. Some believe he was a disgruntled man who felt scorned by society. Others suggest he was a highly intelligent individual with a deep-seated need for attention and control. Yet, despite decades of investigation and thousands of suspects, the true identity of the Zodiac killer remains a mystery, lost in the fog of time and speculation. The case remains unsolved, not for lack of trying, but rather due to the complexity and the sheer volume of evidence. It's a labyrinth of cryptic clues, dead ends, and false leads. The killer's cryptograms, only one of which has been definitively solved, add another layer of complexity to the case, a morbid game of cat and mouse where the mouse continually eludes capture. Theories continue to swirl around this case, from the plausible to the downright bizarre. Some believe the killer may have had a military background, while others suggest he may have been a police officer. There are those who believe he is still alive, hiding in plain sight, while others are convinced he died years ago, taking his secrets to the grave. As we continue to search for answers, the Zodiac killer remains a chilling reminder of the dark mysteries that can lurk within the human mind. In the world of true crime, the Zodiac killer stands as a haunting enigma, a puzzle that remains unsolved to this day. The case, marred by cryptic letters and chilling details, continues to confound investigators, even after all these years. This enigma, however, is not meant to be locked away in the annals of history. It's a challenge, a call to action for those with a knack for solving mysteries. So we turn to you, the armchair detectives, the curious minds, the seekers of truth. What are your thoughts on this chilling mystery? What theories do you have? What pieces of the puzzle do you think have been overlooked or misinterpreted? We encourage you to delve deeper, to question the evidence, to challenge the accepted narratives, and to join the ongoing quest for answers. As we part ways, remember, every mystery is a challenge, a call to unravel the truth hidden in the darkest corners of our world.